What are the worst brand new cars on sale in the UK right now? These are cars that are well past their sell-by date, were flawed from the very beginning, or simply represent terrible value for money. The final car on my top 5 spans all 3 of these categories. Let's get into it. The second generation Jeep Compass was launched in 2016, and despite attempts to modernise it, it's still a dreadful car. On the inside, the materials are very cheap and certainly not fitting of a car that starts at £34,000. The infotainment system has also not been adapted for right-hand drive cars and is therefore tilted away from the driver. Although physical buttons are present, they are illogically laid out, with controls for the aircon and the stereo grouped together. As for the way it drives, the answer is not very well. The ride is unsettled, the steering is numb, and despite being a petrol plug-in hybrid, the engine is unrefined, creating distinct vibrations through the steering wheel. The plug-in hybrid also doesn't make financial sense as a company car, because the 30-mile electric range, it puts it in a high company car bracket. Overall, it's not a recommendable car. Many Chinese cars in the UK are highly recommendable, like the MG3 and the BYD Seal, which is my top electric family car pick in my buyer's guide. However, the Skywell BE11 is certainly not one I'd recommend. Let's start with the way it drives. The BE11 has very unnatural controls, with a highly sensitive accelerator pedal, spongy brakes and vague steering. Refinement is also terrible, with high road noise and wind noise. The infotainment is also very clunky, with haphazard layouts and unreliable smartphone mirroring. Interior quality is flimsy, despite having some plush materials. Chinese cars have got a positive reputation for some rapid charging, like on the Xiaomi SU7, which can charge up to 400 kilowatts. Well, the Skywell isn't one of those, because it can only accept 80 kilowatts. This might be acceptable if the price was cheap, but when it's similarly priced to excellent electric SUVs like the Renault Scenic and the Skoda Enyaq, it makes absolutely no sense to buy this car. When you take price out of consideration, the Mercedes-Benz EQA is a half-decent car. It has a long range, is nicely refined, and has a decent infotainment system. However, nothing can justify the £50,000 starting price, and if you look below the surface, there are many shortcomings with this car. Firstly, it has a firm ride, especially by Mercedes standards, and this isn't offset with good driving dynamics, as there's noticeable body lean and numb steering. The brake pedal is also poorly calibrated, being grabby, numb and inconsistent. Although the interior materials feel decent and the design is appealing, it's all screwed together rather poorly, and the climate control panel flexes when used. Due to being an electric car and the batteries being under the floor, it's uncomfortable to sit in the back of the Mercedes-Benz EQA, as the floor is very high up, providing limited under-thigh support. The boot is also very small, at 340 litres, which is significantly less than the Audi Q4 e-tron's 520 litres. When the Dacia Spring was launched in 2021 for Europe and 2024 for the UK, it aimed to reduce the trend of electric cars being significantly more expensive than their internal combustion engine counterparts. Sadly, the price is the only thing Dacia got right about the Spring. The Spring feels dangerous at higher speeds, with nosediving under braking and poor overall body control. At Euro NCAP, it only received a 1-star safety rating. It's also incredibly noisy, but you won't have to put up with this very long, because the real world range is only about 100 miles. I'm not going to complain about the interior quality on a car of this price, but what I will complain about is the fact that in such a small car, the visibility is so poor. The driving position is also a bit iffy, with the steering wheel only adjusting for height. If you're looking for a car to run about cities for very small commutes, the Spring is perhaps a viable option, but personally I would just get the Citroën Ami, which has a lot more character and is quite significantly cheaper than the Spring as well. Before I tell you the worst new car on sale, let me tell you a few more runner-ups. There's a Suzuki S-Cross with terrible driving dynamics and a cheap feeling interior, as well as a dated infotainment system. There's the KGM Tivoli, which is also terrible to drive and has a rubbish infotainment system, as well as an inefficient engine. And finally, there's the Nissan Juke, which despite being a terrible car, somehow repeatedly appears in the top 5 list of the most popular cars in the UK. You can watch my full rant about the Nissan Juke with the video link at the end of this video. Anyway, here's what you've been waiting for, the number 1 worst new car on sale in the UK right now, and that's the Lexus UX300E. This electric SUV claims an official electric range of 279 miles, but in the real world this is very optimistic, with tests revealing a number closer to 170 miles, and very slow charging speeds of only 50 kilowatts. By comparison, a DS number 8 will do 466 miles. The UX was designed to be a hybrid, so the extra weight of this electric car means it's very sloppy through the corners. Interior quality lower down is also quite poor for this price point. Visibility is also extremely restricted. The infotainment system is dated with substandard graphics, and rear seat space is very poor, with very limited rear legroom and very narrow door openings. The only benefit to buying this car is that you get Lexus's excellent reliability record and a fairly comfy ride, but this certainly isn't enough to counterbalance its shortcomings. The worst part about this car is the outrageous price though. It starts at over £40,000, and if you want a top spec Takumi, that'll be £49,000.